Together, Lyle and Jim and I are representing now 250 families who have been affected by Red Hill as of today. This has been an organic process. We came here when we had just one client. We came at the invitation of Jamie Simic, who called me from her hospital bed and she said, "I've been poisoned, can you help?" And little did she know that I actually used to represent the United States in Federal Tort Claims Act cases, and I'm a survivor of toxic exposure. So the answer was yes, resounding yes, I can help. And so I flew over here, and the Navy at the time was saying, yes, this happened, some people got sick, it's kind of like food poisoning, it'll get better, it'll get out of their systems, and there's going to be no long-term effect, don't worry about it. Oh, and by the way, there's really no research on this issue. We really don't know how jet fuel affects people. We think everyone's going to be fine, right? That was the message that they were saying then and now. And I held up at the very first town hall these studies. Cancer, skin conditions, respiratory disorders, immune disorders, neurological effects, visual and hearing disorders, renal diseases, cardiovascular conditions, gastrointestinal disorders, genotoxic and metabolic effects. Do those sound familiar? How many of you have experienced one of those? Everyone here. That's amazing. I didn't even think it was going to be that many. Everyone here has experienced the effects of jet fuel. So I think that resonated with people. And I continue to stand up and say over and over again, every chance I get, that this is not fleeting. The harm is ongoing, and people are still experiencing very real harm today. And so the question that we're asking, what are we doing here in Hawaii this week? Jim and I have been meeting many of you, and we've been collecting evidence and going to people's houses and hearing their stories and documenting it. This is Andrew, our media guru, and he's recording this because we want to present a narrative to the Navy that this is real and these are real people, and we're going to have assistant U.S. attorneys on the other side of this case. And I want to be presenting to them what it felt like at the time, in real time, when y'all were forced to stay in houses that made you sick. And you wanted to leave, but for whatever reason you couldn't. And you're experiencing the effects right now. Many of you will experience those effects in the future. So what can you claim from a Federal Tort Claims Act case? Inconvenience, illness, and fear. Those are the three, there are more, but those are three that I can think of now for people right here, right now. So what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna pass the mic to you. We wanna hear from you. What are your experiences? And we're gonna go through those things. How has this disrupted your life? What are your ongoing symptoms? And for those who are willing to share, what are your fears? We're here also to answer your questions. And we wanna spread the word. In my humble opinion, every single person who was on the waterline from May to November of 2021 should be bringing a claim, because you were affected in some way, whether you know it or not, whether you realized it at the time or not. This disrupted your life, and you should be compensated by the United States. The Federal Tort Claims Act is a beautiful thing. It says that people who have been harmed by the negligence of a federal officer can bring a claim against the United States for the harm. Every one of you has been harmed in some way, and you have the right to compensation, I believe, from the United States that contributed to that harm. So Jim and I are here. We have agreements to sign if y'all want to join our suit. We represent each person individually. This is not a class action. The time is now. We are representing people and taking on new clients now. That won't last forever. You only have 2 years from the date you knew about the exposure to bring a claim. And I don't think lawyers will be accepting clients on the end of those 2 years. We're taking people right now. So please spread the word to neighbors and friends. And we're here to answer questions. And like I said, we have agreements here. And Lyle will be here shortly, and he will introduce himself to you too. So now to pass the mic to you for the conversation. And I wanted to, put people here in a circle. And we have a representative from ABC News here tonight. He's here to listen to this story too, because we want to spread the news nationwide about what's happening here on Iroquois Point and on the island of Oahu. When did they tell you to stop drinking the water? If ever, right? If ever. Some neighborhoods, they never said stop drinking it until they showed up with a flushing team and they're like, oh, we were affected? I thought we weren't. So, do what you can, right? If you have the energy to do a full comprehensive timeline, great. But if you can't and you're just like making it through the day, do a short one. Yeah. Don't lose the chance to be included in these claims, because I'm telling you, I can't guarantee any outcome, but Lyle, who just arrived, and I'll introduce him in a minute, Jim and I, we're gonna leave it all in the field. I'm betting my little law firm on this case, and I believe in the claims, and I believe that we will prevail. It's just a question of when and how much.
I told him to turn the sprinklers off for the whole housing complex because I have a basset hound, and he showed up in October and immediately got sick. So they refused to turn the sprinkler system off, and every day you take him for a walk, he walks right through that stuff. So even whenever you changed out the water, you couldn't take him out of the environment because you take him for a walk outside. And anybody who has an animal that took him for a walk, I guarantee your dog's been affected. If you have a cat, guarantee it's been affected. And then with Iroquois Point, living out here, now the Army did recognize AMR, Hickam, Pearl Harbor. They recognized that pretty fast, and it seemed like the only ones doing anything was the Army. Yeah. The Army immediately jumped on it. Yes, but it took weeks after those were recognized for them to actually recognize Iroquois Point as an affected area. There was a time frame that everywhere else was affected, but they were pumping their brakes on saying, hey, Iroquois Point's affected. But then the Army said, no, Iroquois Point's affected. The Navy wasn't going to say we're affected. The Army was the one that stepped up and caused that action. Now, you can't really ding the Army for it. They were doing the right thing, but the Navy was it seemed like they were trying to sweep it under the rug.
But even after the Army recognized it and started evacuating their people from the neighborhood, I still have the Catalina landlords coming to my house, viewing my water, which had a sheen on it, and smelling it and saying that it was all fine. They brought two people. They spent like 20 minutes there basically telling me that I was pretty crazy and everything is fine. We live here too. Our kids are bathing in it and drinking it. It's all good. And saying like, oh yes, the Navy water lines are affected and we're on Navy water lines, but our water's coming from a different source than the rest of these sources.
I think what's outrageous is that they were talking to you like you were stupid. Yes. Right? And these are smart, my clients are smart people, and they're saying, no, it does not make sense,
How many of you went to the meeting at the park with the attorneys?
Everyone was denying everything until we saw the blueprint come up on the news. So I looked it up and I expanded. I said, well, wait a minute. We're getting our water from the same water supply as Red Hill. And my company that I work for, we service those pump supplies. And that really upset me, because then it's like a couple months down the road already, and I was already having issues, and I didn't put the two together until.
That leads us to the next topic, which is symptoms. And go ahead.
One thing about when they flushed into the lagoon and the sheen on the lagoon, and then I live on the lagoon, and I've seen them come and flush empty homes. And I'm wondering why they're doing that, and then they'll flush it right. And that's still ongoing. I mean, now I run out and take pictures of it, but at the time I didn't. But they're still flushing homes that are inhabited, that are not inhabited. They're still flushing them. So that makes us feel like we're still getting the hydrocarbons.
And I wonder too, because you know what, I walk along the lagoon a lot, and I took lots of pictures of dead fish. Because there were turtles. Dead fish and turtles and So I'm wondering, I'm
Noreen,
gonna look
were
at my
you gonna say-
pictures and see if there's a timeline.
Before they flushed it, I noticed when I was always taking a shower, my eyes would burn.
Oh my God, yes.
And I thought I was just, oh, my shampoo's too strong, or something's going on with my shampoo. And then after they flushed it, now I can take a shower without my eyes burning. So I'm like, wow, Jesus Christ. You know, all this time I'm just poisoning myself. And now I got issues. I got all kinds of symptoms.
Let's talk about the symptoms. What symptoms have you had?
Well, I moved in June of last year, and I didn't have none of these symptoms. And I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, and I just love to come and relax and drink beer. And I joke with my family because they buy bottled water. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Hawaii's got the best water out of everywhere. So why spend money on buying bottled water? So I'm always drinking water from the faucet. I like Kool-Aid and lemonade and stuff like that. And now all of a sudden, it was getting close to November, I started having gastro problems, which I thought maybe I'm just eating too spicy or different kind of foods, or I'm drinking too much, but then it started getting worse. And then all of a sudden I started having bleeding problems. And then I said, well, something's going on. So I had to go to my doctor, and he gave me some pills and stuff like that. And it takes like 5 days to go away. I thought I was gonna die, but then it went away. I said, well, okay, no, don't worry about it. Just go back to work. But then it's like every month I was having issues. And then it was getting worse. So then I went back to my doctor and he said, well, we gotta find out what's wrong with you. So right now, that's where I'm at. I'm always having digestive problem now. So I don't like to eat too much, because even right now I'm bloated.
How many of you have had digestive problems? Keep your hands up. What? How many people have had digestive problems? Okay, this is a good exercise. How many of you have had respiratory issues? Respiratory issues. How many of you have had neurological issues? How many of you have had visual or hearing problems? How do you pronounce this word? Hepatic? Hepatic. Okay, this is awkward, but how many of you have had renal and hepatic issues? Kidney and liver. Kidney and liver.
Urinary tract infections or kidney pain, kidney infections.
How about general immunity problems?
Like diagnosed or having to seek help for autoimmune diseases.
Yeah, autoimmune type issues.
Have autoimmune diseases.
Okay.
Thyroid fluctuations.
Let's talk about some that I know of that I don't have on that particular page. The first two were skin conditions. It's unbelievable. Respiratory issues.
And maybe I have a neurological issue, but you didn't mention like neurological issues like brain fog, memory loss.
I said neurological issues, but let's break it down. Brain fog or memory loss.
Attention deficit.
Attention deficit, yeah.
I thought that was because I was getting older.
So I don't want to speak out of turn with the licensed therapist in the room, but toxic exposure affects the brain in two ways. One, it literally changes the physiological makeup of your brain. It changes the physiology of your brain. It causes something called scalloping. And so it changes your brain makeup. Of what y'all have gone through,
also has a physiological impact on the brain. And I don't have the scans here, but I can show you the scans another time. These are two different effects on the brain, but you have had a double whammy. Either one of those can cause brain fog, memory loss, attention issues, and then you've got the double whammy. Go ahead.
So along with that, and I know my friend Noreen can speak to that as well, how many of you have experienced changes in your personality, like extreme mood swings, angry outbursts, rage, whatever, like teary,
Sadness.
teary,
Blue periods.
and just wondering what the hell is wrong with you? Like, where did this come from? I don't even feel like the same person I used to be.
I have a question about the visual. I think it's just me, but I can't be online or read anything for any length of time because my vision gets so cloudy. And then when I leave to take my dogs for a walk, it still takes like probably 30 minutes for my vision to sort of acclimate to outside. Is that just me?
No, and how about the ear pain and the in and out from one ear to another, where like you lose your hearing in one ear, and then anyone else?
Yeah. And these are really common. These are very common symptoms with toxic exposure generally. So, as a survivor, I've actually felt so many of these: the brain fog, the intense ear pain that I could never make go away. I mean, a lot of this is really you're not alone. I haven't experienced jet fuel, but the symptoms are very common for toxic exposure. How about vestibular issues? How many of you have experienced vestibular issues? This is kind of, and some of you might not know yet.
How about dental issues?
Dental issues. Okay. How about hormonal changes for men or women? Hormonal, like thyroid. Okay. Yeah. You got it. You getting it. And how about? I'm gonna go there. How about tumors or cancer that you didn't have before?
Some tumors.
Tumors or cancer that you didn't have before. So that's a transition into fear. What are your fears?
So I'm sitting here, and my name is Frederick, by the way. I'm sitting here, and I haven't raised my hand one time for any of the symptoms that was put out. My fear is that one day I will be able to raise my hand to each and every one of those, and I just do not want to be caught off guard and just forget that this is what has been done to us. So it's like, sometimes I guess these things, they come in time, and it's a ticking time bomb. So for those of us that haven't experienced anything yet, cross your T's, dot your I's, make sure you document things as necessary, and make sure you don't forget. So that's what I'm gonna say.
Lacey.
I'll try to be brief, but I have a lot to say. We were on Fort Island, Hickam, when we found out. I'm going to kind of skip past all the acute symptoms, but I had every single one that was mentioned. I will say that our family I consider that we're lucky. We're very lucky, first of all, to be alive and to have survived this. We're also, I consider ourselves to be very privileged because we could afford out-of-pocket health care. And through a functional medicine doctor, we were able to get toxicology testing. We found out what exactly was in our bodies, what was in my children's bodies. Based off of that, we were able to get blood work done. That's when we found out my kids had thyroid issues. We started to pursue my 6-year-old, well, she was 5 at the time. Her thyroid levels were worse than my 3-year-old. She was sick. I went out and I bought Campbell's soup, the one that you dump, and then you mix a can of water. And I open up the tap, mix the can of water in. She'd drink the soup, and she'd throw it up. Drink, throw it up, drink, throw it up. The only thing that would help her was Pedialyte. Of course, Pedialyte's not mixed with water, but I didn't know that. So for weeks, we continued this Campbell soup diet of contaminated water, not knowing I was making my child sicker. So I have those flashbacks quite a bit during the daytime. At nighttime, when I put the kids to bed and I can try to quiet my mind, I frequently just lay in bed scrolling, watching YouTube videos, presentations of pediatric symptoms of leukemia, various cancers. I made 1 or 2 a.m. I made a list of all of the conditions that people from Camp Lejeune water contamination developed, and I spent quite a long time Googling what are the first symptoms of those cancers so that I can watch out for them for the rest of my life. In myself, and then I looked up what are the pediatric symptoms because those are going to be a little bit different. And I had several visits talking to the doctor about what do I look for? What are the first signs of leukemia, you know? We have some of those now. So we're better, we're in a safe place, and the problems have not ended. I don't know if they ever will. I think I'm changed forever. My future career aspirations have changed. I wanted to be a social worker at the VA. I don't want to do that anymore. So.
And you spend your time being hyper vigilant, looking through all of this stuff in the middle of the night and not sleeping and thinking and ruminating, and you have flashbacks. And I mean, that in and of itself is a diagnosable mental illness.
Oh yeah, I
trauma.
I am diagnosed with adjustment disorder, which later becomes PTSD 6 months later, right? I have no doubt I'm already exhibiting many of those symptoms. I know that. I have a copy of the DSM. I have a copy of the DSM-5 right behind my desk, and I look at it all the time for my schoolwork. But here I am flipping through it, and I'm like, yep. Avoidance, yep, check. I will not go to the Navy Exchange. I used to shop there quite a bit. I won't go there. Any sort of anything that has, even coming here, I was just anything veteran or military. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to.
And the whole thing about we're all afraid of our water. Like, we can't jump in the shower feeling like we're gonna come out refreshed and feeling good. We're scared to jump into the shower. And we're scared to boil water because even if it is good water, once it starts boiling and the steam starts rising, we're having flashbacks of like being poisoned by this. And is it really safe? Is this just steam or is this gas?
Right.
And what is that mark in my stainless steel pot? Is that like just like regular marks or not?
Yeah, who here has
We spend all of our
Google
time
that.
Googling
Yep.
shit. That's all we do.
How many of you have looked up symptoms from Camp Lejeune? What are some other fears?
The question is like, I just had I went to the doctor this past week because I had this random rash on my neck and on my arm. And I was like, there's nothing, what is causing this? And my daughter has rashes. I can show you so many pictures after they said it was safe or whatnot. And I keep bathing them in it and I know I need to stop. And I took a month of just doing the water from Walmart, but it's so exhausting and I have 3 toddlers and her, and it's just so much. I was pregnant in the middle of all this, by the way. I had to like go home from the hospital with her to a hotel. So that was exciting. But anyway, my point is the doctor, literally I showed them pictures of my daughter's rashes and chemical burns. They say nothing. And it's so frustrating with me. I'm like, I just stopped going. But at the same time, I went because of mine, and I was like showing him her the pictures of my daughter, and they were just like, wow. They don't say anything, they don't do anything. I stopped going to the pediatrics because they were just like, okay, well, we don't really know. I'm like, this happened with no soap in the water, and it's after you guys said it was safe, and there's nothing else in the water, and it's like minutes, after we put her in this red chemical burn. I can show you. But anyway, it's just frustrating that they say nothing. And I'm like, give me a test, give me something. I had to say dermatology, anything. Oh yeah, I can refer you to dermatology. I had to say that. I'm like,
And
But of course, the
will tell
dermatology-
you nothing too. How many of you have been to doctors who have told you that there's no research out there?
Yeah. No testing, nothing. Toxology,
I even have doctors honest.
Don't even know it about it.
Well, I've had a doctor who was honest in an ER and said to us, he said, if this is related, unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of research as a doctor for populations who have ingested this. And he said, so my best to offer you is stay on top of this. Don't let this symptom, I'd been having blood in the urine, no bacteria growth, and then excruciating pain in what I think was maybe the kidney. They ruled out kidney stone, and he was being honest, and he was even saying, we just don't have a lot of evidence. And so to be blown off by doctors who told my husband and me, the ringing in the ears, the swaying, that can just be your age. And it's like, how do you take the toxic exposure? But that was the problem we were all having, is that they're not saying toxic exposure on the front side of looking at symptoms. So my biggest fear is we're going to become the next Camp Lejeune in 10 and 20 years, some sooner, and then we'll become those kids and those parents and those fighting, because like we're considered civilian, fighting medical system who's not prepared for us.
Is there anything we could say to the doctors to get them to do something?
So that's a great question. So my firm is called Just Well because I literally just want people to get well. It's about justice and wellness, but first and foremost, I actually want you to get well. More than I want you to have financial recovery, I want you to get well. So one thing that I have done is I periodically hold Zoom, I call them Red Hill Answers, and I invite an expert to come and share. So we had a pediatric environmental specialist come and talk about kids and after environmental exposure. But also in here, we have put together a list of wellness resources. These are doctors who have been recommended by our clients, doctors they have seen who have listened to them and not gaslit them. This is like the non-gaslighting doctor list. That's the best description for it. I'm not a doctor, so I can't recommend any one doctor, but I can say that these have been helpful to people. Lacey saw Dr. Karen Johnson. That's it. You've said that publicly. So she was helpful in the beginning, but there are others here too. I do find as a survivor myself that the doctors who have been most helpful for me have been integrative health doctors who have MDs but who specialize in environmental exposure. Going to a dermatologist, they have no clue. It's not because there's not research out there. They just don't. They're going to look at you like you have 5 heads because they just have never seen that before. And they don't have enough time, to be honest. The medical system is structured now. They don't have enough time. They have 5 minutes with you. I remember going to my pediatrician, and I was trying to get just a strep test to see if my kid who has toxic exposure has a secondary symptom. And I started talking to her about toxic exposure. And she goes, whoa. That's not what you're here for. It sounds like you've been reading a lot on the internet. I don't know. That sounds really, I think we should set up a separate appointment to talk about that. I thought I was just doing a strep test. And I was just I have 2 Ivy League degrees. I'm not reading too much on the internet. I mean, this is real, people. So anyway, that's my side to say that I've been in those meetings, and you have to find the doctors who will listen and who understand environmental exposure. And when you do that, you can start to get to the root cause of it, and you can start to remove some of the toxins from your body. And when you do that, you're going to be less likely to have some of these symptoms later on. That's personally what I believe. But this list has people on the traditional side and on the integrative side, so everyone can make their own decisions. Okay, what else are we worried about? Yeah, go ahead.
In 1953 to 1987, well, Red Hill's been going on for years and years. So, that's why when I think they flushed the house, there was a sheen on the lagoon that went on for, it was amazing. There was pictures of it on the Facebook. But, so, I mean, how are we supposed to know that our houses are clean just because they flushed them once? After years and years, this has been a problem going back 14 years at the very minimum.
How many, so the Navy has cleared this area. Okay, they've said this is safe. How many of you believe that your houses are actually safe? Not a single person in this room actually believes that their house is safe. That's insane.
How many of you have lived here longer than before May of 2021 and feel like you've probably been poisoned for 6, 7, 8 years that you lived here, that we don't know about those spills yet?
Okay, so I want to address that because this question comes up a lot about the litigation. People ask me, Christina, why are you focusing on May and November of 2021? Are you an idiot? Don't you know that there has been jet fuel in the water since 2014? I do know that. I'm also an FTCA lawyer, which means that I need to focus on what the government says happened. And the government says that there were operator errors in May and November of 2021. So I don't have to go back to 2014 to say that all of you have been affected from May to November. That's 6 months, right? I can capitalize on that operator error. In legal terms, operator error equals negligence. Negligence. Then it's just a question of proving, you know, the effect of the harm.
One of my friends and her children who were in my class in California lived here during that spill. She was 28 years old and had a stroke while living in the house during that 2014 spill. She still has problems today. My other friend, a couple houses down, they had moved from Hawaii too. She was pregnant with one of her children here, and at the time she had a 3-year-old. Both of those children had been diagnosed with autism. I have a third friend, same street. They lived here previously. They have problems as well. They moved back, poisoned a second time. This has affected a lot of people, you know, for a long time. So I also wish there was a way to target that 2014 earlier.
So Jamie Simic is my very first client who called me from her hospital bed and said, I've been poisoned, can you help? So she's been back in the hospital and she asked me to read this on her behalf. I have been discharged from the hospital after a week of tests and treatment to help stabilize me again. As some of you know, she was here in 2014 also. So she would tell you that she's 8 years ahead. As many of you know, I've been extremely sick since moving back to Oahu and then back to Florida after being poisoned by contaminated drinking water and vapors in the air from the Red Hill fuel storage leak. This was my 10th hospital visit in less than 2 years and 3rd hospitalization in 9 months. With each visit, there are more and more scary diagnoses with little to no follow-up. That is until Shands University of Florida, Gainesville, Florida stepped into the picture. I cannot thank the doctors, nurses, and the entire staff enough. They truly upheld the oath that they took. They did what Tripler Army Medical Center and several other hospitals have failed to do. She says, please give me a little time while I digest what I've been through and the diagnoses that I've just been given. As soon as I get my pathology reports from my GI tract, I will update everyone. Right now, I am relishing in being surrounded with my hubby, little ones, and my grandmother while trying to rebound from the severe relapse that my body just went through. Thank you to every single person that kept myself and my family in prayer and positivity. The prayers are working. This is not the end of the road for me, I promise you that. This is just the beginning of a whole new battle towards recovery, however that may look. With God in my corner, anything is possible. We have already proven that more than once. Well, I want to introduce my co-counsel. This is Lyle Hosoda, who has just been far and away the best counsel we could have possibly imagined. We really sought out a local partner, someone who could help us on the ground and who knew the courts, knew the players here, but he is so far beyond what a local counsel is usually. He's a true partner, and Jim and I are really honored to have him as part of our team. So, Lyle, do you have a few words for everybody?
It's truly an honor and a privilege to be a part of this team. It really is. I thank you for being here and for sharing everything that you've shared. I'm always so moved by all of that. So as Jim and Christina, thank you so much for coming. Jasmine, nice to meet you. The other thing I was going to apologize for is my outfit, because I would run back to the office, put on a tie and a coat, but of course, as locals, that's not necessarily the way to go win you over either. But last night we had a lengthy meeting. We went to school together. It's always great to come into and see people that we haven't seen for a while. But this actually relates to a schoolmate of ours. Last night I got home late after our meeting, about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and of course my wife is waiting and wants to talk. She said, "We have to watch it." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She says, "We just have to watch it." And I was exhausted because my day started at about 5 and we were getting home at 10. But we sat and watched this Netflix special on our nephew, who we call our nephew, Manti Te'o, who played linebacker for Notre Dame and then started here at Punahou, outstanding career at Notre Dame, and then went into the pros. I wear his jersey in his honor today because at 60, I don't see too often run into wow factors or people that inspire me. This young man inspired me from the time when he was in 7th grade. Spiritually strong, physically strong, mentally tough. And now his inspirational story on overcoming adversity. And as I drove out here, I said, that's kind of what's going on here. So I didn't rip off this jersey and come out here in my coat and tie, and I'm just here to tell you that I know this young man, and he had no part, and they should have just come out and said that in that Netflix thing, because they said they've been searching to see whether he was complicit in this catfishing. And I can tell you for sure, I know this man's character, and I know his entire family character, because here in Hawaii, we go back generations and generations and know each other, and I will tell you that he was not complicit. And I wear his jersey proudly in his honor. And I'm here to fight for you in the same way, because you have had to overcome so much for something so simple that you're looking for yourselves and your children, which is just safe water, a safe home. That's all you've asked for. For me, being a part of this team has been such an honor because, again, for me, I often go in and I'm the oldest guy in the room nowadays. I don't know how that happened, but I am. But it still comes down to the fundamentals of trust and credibility. And with Christina and Jim and the entire team, they do what they say, and they say what they do, and they mean what they say. With Christina, I'm sure many of you have tried to reach her, called her, Zoomed with her. She's always there. You know, sometimes I want to shut off my phone because here come the emails from Christina at 5. But if you want a team to go at it for you here, you've got it, both in terms of somebody with experience with the FTCA claims. Jim has so much experience with the military. And I can tell you that locally, this is my 38th year of practice, and there's not a judge or an attorney here, and other friends that have come to support us. When Christina started, I walked in, I heard her talking about what she has done and what we've done to work collaboratively and cooperatively. And I think you started this movement by being willing to stand up people like Jamie and take on, and you knew the retaliation was coming. And even in spite of that, you were willing to take it on. Well, now, front page says we have ears on, and we have people hearing, and now starting, it's coming. And it's because you were willing to start it, and now we've got team, and we're working cooperatively with other plaintiffs' councils. Because why wouldn't we be on the same page with them, aligning who are your experts, what are your theories, so that we don't cross it. Can we share evidence? We can. So again, I thank you. I'm humbled. It's hard for me to hear the stories. You know, so moved. My wife came to one she won't come to anymore. I mean, the box of tissue just went. So She sends her aloha as well, but I don't think you'll see her. She waits for me to come and then makes sure we watch TV till 2 in the morning. So you know who the boss is at my house. But thank you all for allowing me to be a part of your team, and I promise you that I'll give everything that I've got to it.
We've had the chance to visit with client families. We've got to go into your homes over the course of the last few days. It's been incredibly moving, as Lyle said. Not a single person that we talked to didn't break down emotionally, talking about what's happened to them, talking about their families, talking about their fears for their children, and we were right there with them, you know, crying with them, hugging them, alongside them. So we certainly appreciate that. Something that's been pressing to me and been interesting to me has been Camp Lejeune. Obviously, that's been a big focus for everybody. And, you know, there's so many years that people have been trying to get recovery for Camp Lejeune. And it wasn't because they didn't have a righteous case. It wasn't because they didn't have serious injuries and their children didn't die of leukemia. It was for technical reasons that they were blocked for many years, and that's a statute of limitations. And so that's why there's an urgency to this. And there are so many people that you know that are not in this room, that are not tracking on this. Even people, you know, they don't have to feel what we feel. They don't have to have the symptoms that you have, right? You, sir, are a perfect example. Every single person who is on that water line has a claim, and they need to put it in now because the time is going to run out. And that's the urgency that we're here with. That's why Christina's come back 3 times. We're trying to help as many people as we possibly can. And there is a sense of urgency to that. So, you know, we are not the kind of lawyer, we don't have a billboard, we don't call people unless our clients introduce us to people, right? But if you were willing to, we would love to talk to other people about this and how we can help them. We have all the pamphlets, we've got all the brochures, everybody's taken those and given those to other people. And we would love to meet other people and talk to them. We talked to one family. We'd heard that there were several miscarriages on the same street at the same time, which to us is no coincidence after all this happened. And they'd said they didn't even know they had a claim. We told them they had a claim. We told them some of the issues our clients are suffering with. And we told them, hey, we've heard there are a bunch of miscarriages here. And the gentleman's eyes perked up and he said, you think miscarriages might be related to this? We had a miscarriage. And he had no idea that he had a significant claim and a significant situation that happened to his family because of this. And now we can help him. So, and we can help his other children, set him up for his other children. Everybody's focus has not been for themselves, but has been for their children. Every single person. And that's why we're fighting this, and we're in the fight. So we just urge you to let other people know that this is urgent. If you have not signed the bond documentation you need to get us started on your claim, do so tonight. Let there be no more time wasted, because it's going to be a long fight, but we are moving expeditiously. There's nobody moving more aggressively and more quickly than we are to file these claims and to file this lawsuit.
And Jim has been doing a lot of that work, processing all of those claims and supervising it. So these white folders have our information in there, have the non-gaslighting resources in there. We have extras for you to take to your neighbors and friends. Then we have pamphlets. Take them to your neighbors and friends. Share our information. Post. You know, I post on Facebook all the time. Share my posts if you're willing, and just send them to our website. It's easy to start a claim. So we're going to be here as late as y'all want us to answer every question that you have, to sit down and hear your story and sign you up if you want to get your claim started. I wanted to say though, some of this was really heavy tonight. And a little over a year ago, I was in the hospital and I didn't know if I was gonna survive. There were all these things happening in my body. I ended up having a tumor, I collapsed, I had thyroid issues, if you name it, I had it. And I was looking at, I was doing my own Google research and I was like stage 3 of whatever. And I just was like, I'm gonna die. And I never would have thought that I would be sitting here with all of you and well enough maybe I'm a little brain damaged, but like well enough to be bringing your claims, right? And to be having an intelligent conversation and to have, I couldn't speak, I couldn't get words out, and I couldn't remember things. And here I am speaking with all of you, and I'm able to get words out, and it's just it's a tremendous privilege and an honor that I get to use my experience to now help others. So I just want to encourage you that however bad you feel right now, like there is healing and there is hope. And my hope and prayer for all of you is that you would be well and that you would find the right doctors and the right care to get well, and that you would live long and healthy and wonderful lives. And I'm in there in the fight with you for this early part of that journey. And I hope that I can get you financial recovery so that you can use that money to go and get well and to spend it on the right resources and the right medical care for your families. That's why I do this. That's why I started my firm. That's why I'm here with you.